Hi, thanks for joining me. My name is Darren Stevenson. You're probably watching my YouTube channel. You can find me on Facebook in San Francisco under that name. I also can be found at wondercloud.wordpress.com, organelle.org, and a few other places around the web, including the new site Medium. I am an intelligence artist, or I like to think of myself that way, and what that means is I play with intelligence to produce it. I'm the opposite of an analyst. I want to make intelligence rather than analyze it. And there's something that's been bothering me a lot today. As I'm learning more about the idea of stars and worlds, and how this metaphor, not just a metaphor, it's a model, but it's a very interesting model, applies to lots of different kinds of behavior. The behavior, for example, of dogs. If you see dogs running around, you can tell which ones are sort of leaders, because they will tend to meet face to face, and oftentimes this will involve conflict very rapidly. Other dogs who aren't leaders will approach from the sides or the rear, and these would be understood as orbitals. In our culture, what we have are phony stars. These would be politicians, rock stars, actors, people who have very elite roles in our culture but are not actually good people. They're just very good phony people. These stars in our culture get huge amounts of acclaim, and they also get something none of us get. They get to play roles. Rather than jobs, they have roles. And like a child, they can play many different roles because they have escaped, to some degree, to a small degree, they've escaped the prison of poverty and slavery to the idea that you just have a job, that you are just a consumer, that you are just a spectator, that you are just a prisoner, that you are a data point, that you are there to sell product to. Now, the interesting thing about this last one is, lots of interesting things about it, but one of the things I like best is how would someone who's never met you be able to recommend things for you unless they were uncommonly intelligent, sensitive, or human? How can people who live in job-based roles that circumscribe their ability to be anything, so that fake collectives of people can make a profit, how can that person be human? Right? It's hard. They can be human to a degree within the constricted role they're given, such as therapist, doctor, lawyer, politician. But we actually expect them to be inhuman in the way that the roles that we've painted upon them demand. And this is weird. So let me just get this straight. We go by the millions to theaters to watch actors play out roles we can't have. And we pay millions of dollars for that every month. But we don't get roles. Now, our children won't put up with that. They just won't. They'll just say no. They'll play out roles by themselves even if we don't let them. They absolutely insist on having roles. And not just one, but like changing, fluid, learning, growing, superhero, supervillain, criminal, police, every kind of role, right? We get nothing. Once you reach adulthood, your roles are basically entertainer or spectator. And the entertainers get to play false roles, and the spectators get to live vicariously and pay for that privilege? Well, what happened to their roles? What happened to our ability to play roles? Why do we have millions of role-playing games, but no roles in our culture? Why do we have highly sophisticated false collectives that dehumanize us to process us into fake humans that will then communicate and sort of torture the real humans with all of that stuff? Why do we do all of that? I mean, don't we want real roles? Don't we want to, have like a leader and a brain person and a brawn person and some sensitive person and kind of a little crazy but very creative person all together for each other? Together because they care about the same things and want to lift each other up rather than to lift a fake person, a really expert fake, to the top, and then pay them madly, like a CEO, a doctor, a lawyer, a politician, a rock star, a movie star. Not that these people aren't good people, okay? We don't know anything about that. But we know that in their roles, they can be a real problem for everybody because they hold up a standard that's a lie, and everyone, looks up to that standard and tries to sort of rise to fakeness. How do you rise to phoniness? Is that even possible? Well, it seems to be possible because we do it madly, and we override all kinds of originality, authenticity, sincerity, sensitivity, humanity, relationality, perspectivity, purpose. We just run that stuff over to have this. Weird, huh? So here's the thing I want to mention. A star has orbitals, and those orbitals have roles. And if they don't, that's a fake star. That's simple. Those things they call archangels? Those are actually the orbitals of a star. Huh? And our star has at least 9 major orbitals. 9, it's an interesting number. And it's dragging those orbitals through space in all these little patterns, right? That are really sophisticated and almost like a symphony. And every one of those little bodies has a role. They're not spectators, see? Look at Earth. Does that look like a spectator to you? That's a serious, serious thing. That's billions of years of concentrated relational biocognition following that star through space. See, that's a role. That's not a spectator, okay? And what we have instead are fans. It's really interesting because a fan is actually the false radiance of a star. Right? It's like that fan that we fan ourselves with, right? All those rays. So in a sense, the planets, excuse me, are the fans of Sol, our star, but they have roles. And those roles change the star, which changes their role, and they change roles as they're going through life. So humans can do that too. We can form these things a little bit like a dolphin pod, right? We have changing roles. Sometimes someone's leading, sometimes another one's leading. Sometimes the intelligent person, sometimes the brawny person, sometimes the quiet one, sometimes the woman, sometimes the little child is leading. And they're all kind of changing and fluidly informing each other. They're together for each other, for purposes that are true and real to living beings, not to fictional collectives. Now, fictional collectives have to produce fake individuals. They have to live, and they want to remake the world in their image. Whatever that false lie, that sort of sophisticated structural nonsense that they've invented, a story really, a description, okay? They want to remake us and the world in that image, and this is true in religion, education, politics, government, philosophy, law, courts, art, music, everything. Anyone who's trying to be over here is going to face a mountain of opposition from these people and their fans, because the fans of these people will be really threatened by any suggestion of authenticity, even in their own children, even in their own families. They will attack it and crush it and push it down. And that's the message of a lot of our religious stories, that when the water child, who is the fluid, shepherd-like unifier of actual purpose, not religious purpose, okay? Not text-based book purposes from nonsense people, and not phony collectives, right? Phony families that aren't actually families at all. They're just fictions that want to remake everything and master it and dominate it, and then sell, and take stuff from everything, pay nothing for that, and then sell it back, like what Google does, or Facebook. Did they pay you? Just curious. Did you get a check from Google today? How about Facebook? Twitter? Did they send you a check? No? I wonder why. Could it be that they're fleecing you like sheep? I think it could. So, try to understand that we live in a culture where aspects of our culture are instancing fake collectives. Okay? These are phony family-like units, phony constellations of beings, for a purpose that's inhuman and will destroy life on Earth on purpose, just to keep instancing those fake humans, fake roles, fake, we call those jobs actually, and a person who could be a meaningful participant in reality, their own life, their growth, becomes essentially like a circumcised slave that is used in new and more egregious ways every time, every week, every month, every year. And as this process goes on, it just gets thicker and deeper and more ratcheted in and more locked in. And these people over here get weaker and more frightened and more afraid. And then they don't have any choice but to convert. I'll give you an example. My sister is not a criminal. She's never been a criminal, but when she became extremely ill, she couldn't get any medical care, so she had to go to prison to get care. Now, I'm not going to tell you my story, which is about 10,000 times worse than that. But what I want you to understand is these people over here are absolutely inhuman. They will take everything from you, okay, and the world, and history, the history of life on Earth. They will burn that down in 1 year, if necessary. One, okay. They'll take anything, and I mean all of them. The religious people, the government people, the educational people, the philosophical people, the gurus, everybody. They'll take it all because they're not looking at purpose. Okay? They're not connecting people together and finding out what they need to be alive, to be intelligent, to be ecologically related, to be connected with the water, the sky, the sun, the history of knowledge and learning, the dangers of knowledge and learning, our food sources. If we are not intimately relational with each other and our food sources, we die. We just get diseases. And instead of having the kind of healing that draws people together to heal the person who is ill, because the person who is ill actually needs attention, right? They need to be held by their pod group and held up so that they actually raise their pod group because they remind them of their unity. Instead of that, we got drugs, surgery, prisons, and skyrocketing costs. I mean, there's nothing more expensive than healthcare except maybe a funeral. Keep that in mind. Nothing more expensive than healthcare and funerals in our common lives. So what I'd like to recommend is that we go back to a model that's more like our hand and less like one finger, isolated, telling other beings fake stories about what they have to be, and then selling them phony job, employee, slave roles, instead of us playing mission-based roles that are fascinatingly meaningful, like I play every day, by the way, all day long, every day, with and for each other, for the history of life and intelligence on Earth, and for the future of all living beings. It's not a religion. This is what we do anyway. This is what it means to be human. We are the role-playing animal, and when we're denied roles, we die. And that's why we can be sold films and fictions and rock music. And rock music is, I mean, for all that I like rock music, I'm a guitar player, by the way, and I've been a musician most of my adult life. I love music. But commercial music, let's face it, there's something really missing from it because the source of music was not entertainment. It was education and healing. We used to get into these little pod groups, right? And we would dance and sing together, all the people, not one person to them, right? All the people would be dancing and singing and drumming. And there might even be like a sick person here in the middle that we're trying to heal and also that will connect us. Now, we might need medicine for that person too, okay? But and even in our culture, we probably need medicine and surgery, okay? Not a problem. But a lot of what we need is attention. And without each other, we can't even tell any that this is happening, right? As you can see, nobody's really clear about the things that I'm saying. And if they are, they're probably kind of keeping quiet because it's a dangerous thing to talk about. So we can go back step by step every day with every act we do to a model like this, where we don't work, actually, we act and think and be into our unity with and for each other's fulfillment, for our insight and discovery, not for religion, not for gurus, not for book sales, not for cults, not for science, not for data, for us, for living beings, for the history of life on Earth, for the future of all of this beauty, which is really actually a lot more important than anything over here. You could burn this all down and we would all be just better off. Everything on Earth would be better off. Now, I'm not saying we should burn it down, but let's transform a bunch of that over here. Let's make this a really tiny portion of what we do. Let's make service to each other, which is really exciting and rewarding and pays you in 15 ways every day instead of one that's easy to steal. We need this, and more in our lives each day. So I'm inviting you to join me in making little pods, put together mission-based little collectives that help each other learn and do things. That's all. Does that sound crazy? Hopefully not, because over here there's something a lot scarier that's really taken us apart at the basis of things, and we need to transform this piece by piece. We can't have a war and attack it. And it's not a conspiracy. This is just sort of naturally what happens when we don't pay attention, right, to each other. Or when we have been, by our habits with knowledge, language, and culture, when we have been handicapped, when we've been purposefully circumcised relationally. And just to give you a little idea about how important that is, when I was an infant, they sliced on my, you can imagine the organ I'm talking about, my male organ, they sliced part of it off. I don't even know who they were. They didn't know me. Why did they cut part of my body off, just out of curiosity? I don't resent that, by the way. That's an interesting just fact from my history. But why would a culture of adults chop part of the relational intimacy organ off? Just throw that away. Might they not be doing that in a lot of other invisible places, like nature and our relationships? I think they are. Why? Because they can make a lot of money doing it. The more they amputate from us and remove from us, the more they can sell us back broken replicas of what was stolen. Broken false replicas of roles, jobs, slavery. Of course, not all jobs are bad. There's some good jobs, but most of them are inhuman, dehumanizing. And when you do the actual math, they're paying you like 20 to 50 cents an hour. Like when you figure out everything you have to pay for, you're getting nothing for that work. Whereas when I work for other people and other beings, just as an ally and asset, I get paid in intelligence and beauty and money and food and love and attention in every kind of way that a human being and a living being absolutely needs. And I get healed. And I heal other people, and we heal each other, and we grow and fly together. That's how we're meant to be. Let's have some more of that, shall we? Right on. I hope I'll see you soon. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye for now.